Lost Ark sounds great on paper, but it's missing something. I like Lost Ark. I really do. There's things about each game that I like and things about each game that I don't like. Like each game that I've been playing has like pros and cons. You know what I mean? Notepad. These are probably like my 3 favorite MMOs I've played in the last while. All right. So the pros for Lost Ark are that we have PvP unlocked after, it's like level 26 or 27, but it's after like you unlock Lutera Castle. So like, you know, just say after level 27. That's pretty amazing, right? Like you don't even have to hit max level to queue up PvP. Like that's pretty insane to just like, you know, whatever. Another pro is that gear is equalized in PvP. Like you don't have to get any gear at all. Like at all. No gear requirements, right? That kind of farms. Another pro of Lost Ark is that systems aren't required in PvP. So this is stuff like cards or what are the other systems in Lost Ark? I'm blanking right now. Cards or engravings. There's like one more, I think, too. But regardless, systems in general aren't required for the PvP in Lost Ark. Like that's really, really good, right? Like that's, you just like honing like all of that. Like you don't need like, yeah, gems, I guess. Like you don't need to do any of this for PvP. Okay. I'd say another pro is you can get gear, titles, mounts, cosmetics from PvP. Did I spell cosmetics right? This looks super wrong, but whatever. You know what I'm talking about. All right. So I feel like for Lost Ark, they're like, those are my favorite like pros. Like you can basically play the game to some capacity in PvP, right? Just like that. Now the cons are basically that the game, okay, the first big con is the game is 21/9 for PvP. Like you need to play either, so this means you have to either play stretched res or have a 21/9 monitor. Like that sucks. Like what? You know, like that doesn't make any sense. Like everyone plays 16/9. Like why, right? Why? That's silly. That's probably like the biggest thing that I dislike about Lost Ark PvP is that it's 21/9. Like I don't want to get a 21/9 monitor and fuck myself over for every other game that I play. I just want to have my normal monitor and be able to play the game, but you can't. So either you stretch res with black bars or you buy a 21/9 monitor. That makes no sense. Like that's probably like my biggest gripe with the game. The other con to me for Lost Ark is like, so like I'm not even necessarily gonna write this. It's a top-down game. I'm not even gonna write that as a con because that's just how the game is. Do I like it? I really probably like more of like a third-person game better, but you know, if you like more of like a MOBA game or like a League, that's probably a pro for you. So I'm not even gonna include that. But for me, maybe top-down, top-down is kind of like a con to the game for me personally. I don't know. Maybe I'll include it. But like, let's just like keep that in mind. That's not necessarily a con for people. That's just me, whatever. Another con, and this tilts me about the game. It's not a bug, but abilities can be canceled on pushes or auto attacks. And I don't necessarily know how to like articulate this, but if I use reverse gravity and at the same time a striker comes up and hits me, my reverse gravity will not work and go on cooldown. So it's not that it just gets canceled. It gets canceled and it goes on cooldown. This is the most frustrating mechanic I've ever seen from any video game. Like, this is, imagine like pressing ice block, but someone hits you at the same time and your ice block goes on cooldown and doesn't work. Imagine pressing Frost Nova, but at the same time a warrior hit you and your Frost Nova goes on cooldown and doesn't work. This sucks. This sucks a lot. And it's a mechanic. It's not a bug. This is on purpose. But this sucks. This is probably the #1 thing about Lost Ark PvP, maybe even more than this, that really bites. It feels bad. Imagine pressing blink when a rogue is on you and your blink doesn't work because you got hit at the same time. Imagine pressing Dragon's Breath when a monk is rolling towards you in WoW and you press Dragon's Breath, but the monk Fist of Furies at the same time and your Dragon's Breath doesn't work and goes on cooldown. It just sucks. It sucks. It really isn't fun. That's probably, this is actually, let's move this to number 1 on the list, dude. This is honestly the #1 thing about Lost Ark that's really frustrating for me. Like that more than even more than the 21/9. So this is a con, this is a con, and this is a con. Now, once again, I'm gonna put another con here. This is kind of like the top-down con, right? This is, how do I say this? Okay, this is also not really a con for most people. This is just for me, and I realize that this is just my opinion, and it's not really, like, it's kind of like top-down. Like, if you like top-down, great, you know? Cool. The art style of the game, booba. You know what I'm saying? It's hard for me, personally. Yeah. Does that make sense? Do I have to explain it anymore? Like, it's just very, like, revealing and very, if you like that, that's awesome. If you like that, it's awesome. But if you don't, then, you know. So anyway, these are the pros and cons of Lost Ark to me. Like, that's what comes to mind. When I think of Lost Ark, I'm like, hell yeah, this is great, super fun, you know? But the cons are just like, okay, you know? Pros and cons. This is Lost Ark, like, pros and cons of Lost Ark, easy, right? Should I do WoW next or New World? Maybe I'll do New World next. So, New World. Okay. Pros and cons of New World. I haven't thought this through either. I'm just doing this on the fly. But pros and cons of New World. Oh my gosh. Pros. The #1 thing I like about New World is open world voice chat. The fact that you can just go up to someone in the game and be like, excuse me. That's like my #1 favorite thing, dude. Like, honestly, that's my #1 favorite thing about New World. I just love it. I fucking love it, dude. I love that I can just go up to someone and be like, yo, trying to duel? You know, like, that is sick. I love it. It just makes the game feel like such an MMO. It feels like such an MMO, man. It's amazing. Like, I didn't really mention this with Lost Ark, but a lot of Lost Ark maybe doesn't feel as much of an MMO because a lot of the stuff is like instanced, and, you know, since it's top down, it might not feel like as MMO-esque. You know, I could even maybe add that as like a con, like, doesn't feel super MMO-y. New World feels like an MMO. Like, you are in this world, the world feels big, and you're just like exploring and chopping trees down, and yeah. So I'd say another pro is that, like, the world feels, it just feels expansive and MMO-esque. You know what I mean? That, like, I hope that point makes sense. It just feels like you're in a world that feels like an MMO. You know, you're chopping trees, you're mining stuff, you're exploring. Like, it just feels, it feels good. Immersive. Yeah. Very immersive. I like that point. Feels like you're in a new world. Yeah. Okay, so another pro of New World that I actually really like, and I didn't think I would like this, is its classless based character design. So you basically log into New World as a character, and you create your class depending on the weapons you pick, the gear you put on, how you build your character. Is dependent basically on how you build your gear, your gems, and your main hand and offhand weapon. So your weapon is kind of like your class. And that is cool. I didn't think I would like it, but I freaking love it. Because at any moment, you can go from like Fire Staff, Ice Gauntlet, and be like, I'm like a mage. But then like, you're like, huh, maybe I'll try like Ice Gauntlet Great Axe, and you're like a battle mage. You know, like that is just, it's so cool. I thought I would hate this. But I actually like it. It's really fun. Because if I want to re-roll, all I need to do is pick up another weapon, level it up, and like my character's my character. Like it just feels cool. I love it. I don't know. It's weird. I didn't think I would ever like that, but I actually do really like that. Another pro is like the open world PvP feels rewarding and like exciting to some extent. Like when the game first came out, it really did. When open world PvP, like open world PvP in New World is meaningful because you're fighting for forts that give bonuses towards wars or towards fast travel or towards certain objectives that actually matter in the game. So if you kill someone, you can actually get something that matters. So open world PvP, where it's like 10 versus 10, 20 versus 20, 50 versus 50, happens on a weekly basis, at least on higher pop realms, for people fighting for territory, and that's cool. You don't really get that in WoW anymore. You used to get that back in the day in the Barrens, you know. You'd get that in the Barrens or like at Crossroads or like sometimes in like South Shore. You would get that. It feels like that, but there's like an actual reason to do that. So I think that's definitely one of the pros. Yeah, I think these are my favorite things about New World. I maybe another pro could be like, it's actually kind of fun to play an MMO that has an aiming / like third person shooter style of a game, you know, of gameplay. Like a third person shooter MMO is kind of freaking cool. It adds this skill component to the game where 1v3 is now possible. 1v5 is now possible because if you're good at dodging and you're good at iframing, you can now 1v5. Right? Let's get into the cons of New World. Number one con is probably lack of content, right? So in PvE, there's just nothing like nothing like a mythic raid that is gonna require weeks of progression to get through. Like in WoW, there's PvE content that is so hard that you have to progress for weeks. With Lost Ark, the PvE is so hard. You can't just finish it in like a day or two. The PvE in New World, like there are mutators that are harder, but besides that, like you don't have something. There's no raid. There's nothing endgame for PvE that's really that hard besides mutators once they get high. But then once again, it's just like whatever. And then in PvP, you have your wars and you have your open world PvP, but if there's no war scheduled and no one's out in the world, there's nothing to do for PvP. I mean, you can do an outpost rush and get gear, which to be fair, they increase the rewards for outposts, so it's actually kind of fun when you get good rewards, like you get good loot. So it's like, okay, you can queue outpost rush, but there's no ranking system, there's no arenas, there's no ranked arenas, there's no exclusive mounts, titles, gear, this kind of stuff, right? The Lost Ark has, and WoW, which we'll get to. This kind of stuff doesn't exist in New World, right? That's probably like, yeah, so there's no titles, mounts, gear rewards, like really good gear rewards from PvP / no ranked PvP, right? So like, this is kind of a big deal. This is the reason people play games, and it doesn't have it for PvE or PvP, right? There's no titles, mounts, gear, awards, like any of this for PvE or PvP. Like, that's bad, man. You know, like, no one's gonna keep playing if this doesn't exist. So I think that's probably like some of the biggest cons in New World. Now, right now, I think another con in New World is the fact that the game kind of feels empty / dead, right? Game feels empty. This is really due to, on the start of New World, they made so many servers because like 1 million people were playing, and now there's too many servers. So server migrations are needed. All right, so we need more people on singular realms so that every realm feels poppin'. Because right now, a lot of New World realms, you just log in and there's just feels like no one's there, and that sucks for an MMO, right? Another con of New World, I gotta put it here. I just have to. There's bugs. There's bugs in New World, right? There's bugs from New World, like ability bug, right? Ability bug is if you're using Entomb and someone hits you at the same time, it'll put your Entomb on cooldown and not work. This is different than this. In Lost Ark, this is a feature. In New World, this is a bug, right? Feature that sucks, bug that also sucks. It's the same thing. Weapon bug, right? Weapon swap bug still exists to some degree. I was playing yesterday. That's annoying. There's desync, rubber banding. Like, it is frustrating, right? And these things happen on a new game, but it's just annoying, you know. But yeah, I think this kind of encapsulates my thoughts about New World pretty well. Like, there's a lot of really cool pros, but there are also cons. Cool. Let's check out WoW. Let's check out WoW. We have pros. And I mean, all of this, I should probably mention, is from like a PvP perspective, right? This is like Xaryu perspective. Like, this isn't, like, this is like from when I'm playing a game, like what I'm looking at, right? Pros of WoW. Okay. The PvP, the best PvP in any MMO, hands down, right? It's just the focus targeting, right? Arena 1, 2, 3. Targeting, right? Mechanics of the game are the best in any MMO that I've played. Mechanically, with macros, right? So I'm just gonna continue this point. So we have macros. We have a lot of abilities, right? We have keybinds and modifiers with all of those abilities. We have like add-ons, like customization capacities, right? So I'll just put like customization. We have smooth, I guess, yeah, like the smooth gameplay, smooth movement is really what I want to say here. Like smooth movements, right? It just feels fluid, smooth / fluid movement for sure is probably one of the best. But yeah, so a lot of these things make the PvP in WoW feel absolutely incredible. The focus targeting, Arena 1, 2, 3 targeting, the mechanics of the game, the macros, keybinds, abilities, customization, fluidity. Like, all of these things make WoW PvP incredible. Incredible, right? That's like the biggest pro of WoW, man. Like, that's what WoW, I don't even know if WoW knows this, but this is like the biggest pro, like, oh, is it good, man? Oh, is it good? I suppose we have, you know, a pro could be like, there's a ranked ladder system with rewards. Like, so this is, you know, like rank 1 titles, mounts, and cosmetics. Like, that's why people play the game, right? Like, you want to get your cool mounts, you can flex it outside Orgrimmar. Like, those are NFTs, right? Like, hey, look, I got my NFT, my rank 1 mount and title and cosmetics. Like, that's what people, that's why people want to play, right? At the end of the day. Yeah, those are really like the two. I mean, I guess we could also just put like, I don't know. I think the game looks and feels beautiful, but I mean, really, the PvP feels the best, and there's a ranked and ladder system. Do I need to say any more? Like that, like those are like, right? Right? I mean, really, that really is what I like about WoW. Okay. Now cons. Cons of WoW. Okay. All right. We're like, I'm trying to like simplify this. No, I'm serious. Because there's a lot of stuff that I could be very nitpicky about because I've played this game for so long. But at the same time, I don't want to be like overly nitpicky. I want to encapsulate these things in bigger umbrellas. I think a really good one, I just read it in the chat. Probably one of the biggest cons is the opposite of the pro of Lost Ark, in that the barrier to entry is too large, right? So this encapsulates stuff like systems are required for PvP. What? Why? Huh? Question mark. Why, right? The barrier to entry and having systems that you need to do to PvP, and this is encapsulating things like legendaries systems, right? Conduits, like in the past expansions, it was like artifacts, like artifact power and all that kind of stuff. It just makes, yeah. So borrowed power, right? In essence, borrowed power. Like, that's probably like one of the biggest cons of WoW. It's like, why are there borrowed power things that you need to do each expansion, pour in hundreds of hours to just play PvP? It makes PvP really intimidating to get into, and the barrier of entry is way too high. So for the average player, it's just never happening. That's probably like one of my biggest cons. My biggest cons for PvP. Like, I really think that you should be able to fully gear for PvP through PvP. If you don't want to add in gear equalization, which I can think of pros and cons for that. It's a whole nother conversation. But if you don't want to add in gear equalization, I truly believe that all required gear from PvP, and when I say gear, I mean sockets, legendaries, everything, you should be able to obtain through PvP. For example, right now in the game, you can get Cosmic Flux from Arena. And since you can get Cosmic Flux from an Arena win, you can then craft a legendary through Cosmic Flux. Right now in the game that exists, that's awesome. I gotta give credit where credit's due. That is awesome. It wasn't like this. This just happened, like last week, right? But that's how it should have been on launch, right when the game came out. You get Cosmic Flux, you need this currency to make a legendary. Sure, that currency should be rewarded from Arena, period, the end. I don't want to hear it, like that just needs to be in the game, right? If you want a legendary, you need to get the currency from the Arena, right? I totally think that should be in the game on launch. Okay? Anyway, that's probably my number one gripe with WoW, is that like the barrier to entry and systems. You know, there's some other stuff, but like, it's just really how nitpicky do you want to get? I think in general, cooldowns are too strong, and just abilities, like non-CD abilities, so just like Frostbolt and stuff, are too weak, right? It makes the game scripted. This makes the game very scripted. It makes the game very scripted if you can only kill someone with Combust, so everyone makes a weak aura every time Combust is up to use defensive, like Pet Sack or Sack or Bubble or Block or whatever, or Pain Sup or Guardian. If I can only kill someone with Combust, everyone's just gonna wait till Combust to use anything. And if I can't kill someone outside of Combust, no one's gonna use anything. So it becomes this game where it's just like, I'm just not gonna use anything until Combust is popped. When Combust is popped, I'll use everything. And then the mage is like, well, I can't kill anything outside of my Combust, so I'm just gonna farm another Combust in between. So in older versions of the game, of WoW, you could kill people outside of cooldowns. You could kill someone with a Frostbolt Ice Lance out of nowhere. A rogue would do enough DPS to just force cooldowns, right? Just without anything, just by attacking you, you're gonna kill people, right? So, just in general, for every class, this isn't mage, but for every class, cooldowns are too strong, non-cooldown abilities are too weak, right? You can only force cooldowns with other cooldowns. You can't just like, the game becomes scripted because of this fact. That's I would say that's a con, right? The game gets scripted quickly. Once again, this is a little more nitpicky than I have for Lost Ark and New World. These are a little bit more generalized. This is a little bit more nitpicky, because once again, it's like I played this game the most, so I can be most specific in WoW because I've played the most. Like another one, maybe I won't write this one down, but I really think all the extra trinkets WoW's made. So like Gladiator's Resolve, Relentless, Adaptation, all of these extra trinkets are, and maybe this kind of goes to this first point, all these like borrowed power trinkets that might not be here next expansion, they all suck. I don't like any of them. Like, I think everyone should be playing the Gladiator's Medallion, and it should just be like baseline Gladiator's Medallion for everybody always. Like, it just... Yeah, sometimes I think WoW in general is trying to reinvent the wheel too much instead of leaning back on this. WoW has the best PvP, hands down. Like, just you have a rank ladder system with rewards and you have the best PvP. Stop trying to reinvent the wheel. Just sit back and let the game do its thing. Get the barrier to entry a little bit easier for people so that people can play your game. So everything from Arena should be available from Arena. Everything you need from Arena can be available via Arena, right? And then if you start putting some of this back in, or maybe another con is like old fun abilities are removed, right? Maybe like old fun abilities removed. And this is stuff like Deep Freeze, right? Sag. Rip Deep Freeze. What was it, 2016 or something? Sag. Yeah. But yeah, seriously, like, these are probably like my biggest things in WoW. I could probably go on longer, but like in general, barrier to entry, cooldowns being too strong, and deep free, like old fun abilities being gone sucks. But yeah, I think that's how I feel about Lost Ark. There's some clear pros, some clear cons. New World, clear pros, clear cons. WoW, clear pros, clear cons. But I really do think this is like the #1 thing WoW has going for it, man. It's just, it's perfect in a lot of ways. But these things also make it very frustrating, you know?